And I hope that if you're watching this, you have actually seen all these at least once. Yeah. Because if you're not and you're watching this, you're like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm sorry.
Obviously, if you're going to watch a video that's going to be titled Game of Thrones, you know, a wrap-up of seasons 1 through 8, you're going to have to assume that there's spoilers. So
lots of spoilers.
If it wasn't implied at first, we'll at least say it now, maybe way too late. I'll throw something in the description down there to say, hey, spoilers if you haven't watched all of this. We're going to be talking about it in depth for all 8 seasons. We're going to be divulging a lot of information you may not know had you not watched every episode like we did multiple times.
Ice. Fire.
Yeah.
Ice.
Well, hello again. We are so glad you're here. It's really nice to be able to get to have this one-on-one time with the kind of processes that we're dealing with at the moment, the environment that we find ourselves in, the temperament, what do I say, the climate? Yeah.
Climate,
so,
the change that we're going through.
The things that are happening out there right now. So it's nice to be able to reach out and actually touch you a little bit, even though we're not able to and not allowed to. Keep all of your appendages to yourself, all your bodily fluids if you can. You know, that's what we want it to be. But anyways, with me as always is Artisan K.
Hello.
We're going to try and take a moment here to walk you through our thoughts and processes on Game of Thrones. 8 full seasons to go through, so unfortunately we can't hit every topic we'd like to. If that was the case, maybe someday down the road we're going to actually break it down season by season, maybe even certain episodes by episodes. If we're really looking for extra content to try and work with, we can have a lot to draw from this. But for today's episode, we're just going to kind of break it down into bullet points. We have 4 main points that we want to cover with each individual season, and we're going to cover it by going through the best character of each season, the best death of each season, the best episode of each season, and the biggest shock of each season. We have plenty of shocks. They did hit us with a lot of them. There's plenty of things that we didn't see coming. We didn't know where they're going to go with it. We didn't know how they're going to come at us with it.
There's a few that we did see coming.
Yeah, quite a few that we did see coming, obviously. Yeah. We pay attention to these kind of things. We watched the, I think it was up to like season 7 all the way through, and then we went back and watched all the way through again as we were waiting for season 8 to come out. Basically, really big fans, a lot of things to talk about. So
you should watch this show multiple times to catch everything. So many layers, so many characters, so much to go through. But we're going to do it as quickly as we can and as thorough as we can.
We have so little to go through and so much time. So,
exactly.
Strike that, reverse it.
So let's just start it off with season 1 here. And that was, I don't even know how many years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But the best character of that season, for me and for you, I would say is Eddard.
Across the board, everybody could definitely agree with this.
Eddard Stark.
Yes. Good old Ned.
Good old Ned. Losing his head.
Dead Ned losing his head.
Exactly. I mean, the guy had a lot of honor. Yes. He also had some humor. He was friends with the king. They hadn't seen him in, 20 years or some crap?
Yeah. Quite a long time for old friends to meet back up and, have him suddenly show up at his doorstep to be like, hey, I'm pulling you away from your home and your family. Let's go. You're my new hand.
Yeah. Well, my hand died. And the hand that they had died, it wasn't the best death. The best death was Viserys, Daenerys' brother, who thought he was the last dragon. But, he was kind of a weenie. I'm not going to lie.
Thought a lot, was mistaken about a lot.
Oh, man, what a piece of crap. So, Aquaman comes in. Oh, wait, sorry.
Definitely not the best brother award going to that guy anytime soon, that's for sure.
So he's a super creep. And they do that a lot in this show. They bring in some real creepy characters, and they kill them off in some really fun ways. So this guy died with her husband, Khal Drogo, dumping gold, hot boiling gold on his head. Give him a crown for
melted
king.
Gold.
Yeah, crown for king. And so our best episode of this season, since every season has 10 episodes except for the last 2, best episode is episode 1 because it kickstarted the whole thing, gave you the discount Matt Damon from the Watchers on the Wall. And
first time we get to see a White Walker. Obviously, it was a little bit different that episode, and then they kind of changed a little bit as they went along, but they were similar.
I think they killed that one off.
Yeah.
I think that was a Sam death. But yeah, you get all the meeting of all the characters and all the families. It's kind of a longer episode. They don't do that all the time where they're like an hour long. They seem like they could be, but last season there were a lot of longer episodes. But then at the end of that episode is our biggest shock. The first episode where Bran's really good at climbing. Bran is the second youngest.
A little bit of foreshadowing early on in the episode, talking about how Catelyn didn't want him to climb anymore, and made him promise, and then he lied, and then he climbed again, and it came back to bite him.
Yeah, and he peers in to a window in the broken tower, and he sees the incestual relationship of Jaime Lannister and Cersei. And then Jaime's like, well, things I do for love.
Yeah, boop.
and you're like, whoa, he just pushed a child! Oh my, he just killed him, what's going on?
Cliffhanger. Yeah.
All right, there's season 1. Boom, done.
Boom, done, out of the way. Kickstarted everything, left us all in a big shock and awe, and from that point on, we were all hooked. I mean, I think I can speak for everybody watching right now. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, that was it. That's what got you.
Yeah.
So that brings us into season 2, and the best character that we saw that happened overall through that season had to have been Tyrion Lannister.
Oh yeah, the Hand of the King.
The Hand of the King, yeah. That's when he first made it to be the Hand of the King, but for that first season into season 2, really kind of gave us a window into the womanizing, or I guess whoremongering, Tyrion Lannister, the drinker that he was. You know, he was definitely playing up his privilege an awful lot before a lot of the show kind of started to shape him and change him into a different character as we went through, and had a really good process through all that, and it was good to see him kind of step into his own through that. But I think becoming the Hand of the King was definitely the first step into being a responsible person.
Well, the king that he had to deal with was Joffrey, and his dad actually gave him some good responsibility by making him the Hand of the King, and he didn't expect that, but he definitely handled it pretty well, I felt. Obviously, it was
a maturing moment for him. You know, you can't say that Tyrion was winning any Best Dad of the Year awards, but I think he had a good idea as to what would be the catalyst to kind of help bring his son into a more mature man.
Yeah. So.
So we have Bronn, who fired the flaming arrow at Blackwater Bay, who actually lit up the wildfire and took out tons of ships, tons of people.
Ridiculous.
Big, brash, crowd. Michael Bay would be so proud.
But it was a lot of green fire.
A lot of green fire going on there. So just a great shock and awe scene for sure. But it was just one of the greatest deaths of that whole season. So it really... it kind of brought the death toll up quite a bit. That had kind of everybody was taking their box off. Suddenly things just went through the roof on that. So
ridiculous.
Of that season, of course, being episode 9, the actual battle in Blackwater Bay.
Very good episode.
Great episode. Also showed Tyrion a lot as well. Kind of being the catalyst that kind of helped bring everybody back from the brink of destruction. And with the riding in of the Tyrell army, it really just kind of helped solidify the victory there. Because at that point, you kind of thought the whole thing was done for, and King's Landing was done. So that brings us to the
biggest shock
and awe factor. Yeah, it was definitely going to be the Stannis baby. Yeah, the black magic that brought on Melisandre's pregnancy, which brought out a shadow that had the face of Stannis Baratheon, who went off to take out Renly. Yeah, which also brought us into Brienne of Tarth, and kind of introduced her character. So
but it was really goofy. And I think everybody at this point in the show was like, should I keep watching? I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah, not sure how I feel about all these people. Suddenly everybody's laying claim to the throne before Joffrey's even out of the picture. Obviously, he was a tyrant too. Really evil person when it came right down to it. I think special mention for the actor who portrayed him, because I don't think he can be in anything else now. As far as anybody's concerned, he played that role so well. We despise Joffrey. Sorry, Jackie Gleason, you kind of killed your career right there. I don't know what else you've done since then. We could look into it more, but I think that would definitely be something that could be career-ending, even though you did it way too well.
Far too well.
Far too well.
And now let's move into season 3. Moving right along. Season 3 was pretty rough. Which is why the best character of this pretty rough season is going to be Tywin Lannister, the father of Jaime, Cersei, and Tyrion.
Hate him as much as you want. The guy was actually a bit of a tactical genius.
Dude had a power trip beyond all. I mean, he was ridiculous in that season. He's basically the Hand of the King, strong-arming the most horrible human being there is into, he sent him to bed without his supper.
Yeah, I mean, he sent the king to bed without his supper. I mean, how much more power can one person take on himself?
I'm not tired! I mean, that was some good stuff. Cracked me up. Anyway.
See him turn into an immature little kid for a second. Just hilarious.
Yeah. So Tywin...
for a second. Well, he wasn't a mature kid the entire time.
Yeah, Tywin's just pulling strings behind the scenes, doing all sorts of stuff, marrying people off, I mean, I don't understand why Tyrion was so upset about being married to Sansa. I mean, granted, she was young, but...
Well, and that goes to show that he actually developed more of a conscience at that time, too, because the old Tyrion would have been like, hey, whereas he saw it from her perspective and was just like, that poor little girl.
Yeah, this is horrible. But see what I'm saying? Like, he just pulling all sorts of strings trying to keep the whole thing together, and then that would bring us into the best death. And our best death is Beric Targaryen, or whatever you want to...
I think it's Targaryen.
I don't know, retardarian. Anyway, so... he was murdered by in a trial by combat by the Hound, and then he got brought back to life by his Thor Samir, his spirit walker.
Spirit walker, his spirit animal,
his top knot. Anyway, so he brought him back.
Bald top, not spirit animal.
Yeah, he brought him back, and that is foreshadowing for later on in the show, which is very useful.
Goes to show you that people can actually be brought back somehow. It shows that the Lord of Light is actually, although a very weird, tyrannical god in a lot of ways, is actually still active in this fantasy world that we're working in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this whole thing, we only have two gods. It's the god of death and life, which is the god of light, and then death, which is the god of death.
Yeah.
That's all we have. Life and death. Oh, woohoo!
Yeah, they talk about all the gods, the old gods and the new. Well, apparently we're only talking about 2 new gods here.
7 hells, what's going on here?
I always thought they said 7 bells for the first few times.
Bells.
Oh, 7 hells.
Yeah,
all right.
7 hells.
A lot of 7 kingdoms, 7 different gods, 7 hells. You know, I guess it's a
best episode.
Recurring number there for sure.
Best episode is episode 9 again, and that's the Red Wedding, which is the biggest shock as well, because it was really like a shock to your system that this was going on. I remember the first time I watched it, for some reason I didn't see it coming, and then I rewatched
Had
it.
me shocked.
Yeah, I have rewatched it. I'm like, I should.
You obviously thought you couldn't exactly trust Walder Frey, but so you didn't see that coming. That kind of betrayal, that kind of like, whoa, okay, that just kind of shut down the whole rebellion right there.
Yeah, the level of butchering that happened in that was pretty eye opening too. You know, you were kind of distracted by Rob and his woman, and you realize that Rob was not as cool as you may have thought the first time through.
Definitely a cool guy, but it just goes to show you, under all the right circumstances, a woman is the death of any man.
No,
I mean, when you
is the death of
when suddenly you're splitting your attention between 2 things, you really can't do both at that point.
Yeah,
even though he tried.
Who can blame him to some degree? But
to some degree, yes.
Anyway, we're moving right along.
Going up to season 4, and of course we have one of our favorite characters just overall anyways, but definitely of season 4 is Arya Stark, or as Aya, or as some people would say. There's definitely no R in there.
Ari?
Ari? Unless you say shorten it, it's Ari, but then it goes to Aya whenever somebody talks about it. But the companionship, I almost want to say bromance,
couple.
but the odd couple, of her and the Hound, Sandor Clegane, it was definitely a cool power couple.
She was doing a lot more killing in this season.
Yeah, really coming into her own of being basically the faceless girl.
Yeah.
So,
but she wasn't a faceless girl yet. She was just a murderer.
Just working her way up to that.
She had a list.
She had a list, and she was keeping to it. So, which brings us to the best death of that season, and I think we all cheered a collective booyah.
I mean, it was a horrible death.
Horrible death, yes. Nobody want to die this way, but when it comes to Joffrey, Baratheon / Lannister, it definitely was a suiting and fitting death for a tyrant king that very enjoyable for us in a lot of ways, and it just kind of set the tone for the whole season. It's just like, things you thought were going to go good from there, but holy cow, did they take off yet again.
Yeah, went another direction because Cersei had to blame her brother.
Yeah. Which brings us to another recurring theme of the best episode, of course, being episode 9 again.
Weird.
I don't know why they're doing this each season.
I think they did it on purpose.
I think they set out a pattern, and they were just going to see who was picking it up, and definitely
we smelled it.
We smelled it.
They dealt it.
We know what was going on there. Yeah. And of course, the biggest shock of that season, you get a short introduction to the Viper. Over in Martell, and it was definitely a cool character. He was very balanced in a lot of ways, obviously very free and open with his sexuality and a lot of weirdness there, did whatever he wants, but definitely was somebody that showed that he was cool, calm, and collected. So when he saw the opportunity to avenge his sister's death and her children and all that by going up against the mountain in trial by combat, trying to help out Tyrion there, dude was on top of it. He was dancing circles around him. He had him dead to rights.
Good fight.
Until he got distracted, until he got greedy and wasn't paying attention, and next thing you know, which brings us to our biggest shocker death, was watching the poor guy's head explode.
And then seeing it twice.
Yes. As his wife definitely had the proper look of horror there, because we all didn't see that coming. It was a shocker.
And they were like, you want to see it again?
Yeah.
There it is again.
There you go. Want some more? We'll feed you, little birdies.
I want to reverse for a second and talk about episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall. That was being the best episode. It's because the whole episode is the battle at the wall between the Night's Watch and the Wildlings, and it's just a really cool episode. You get to see Ygritte get killed, and there's just a lot of really cool violence.
This goes to show you and tell you that Jon Snow knew nothing.
Yeah, he knew absolutely nothing, but he also knew how to kick some butt, apparently, and he started coming into his own during that episode.
It goes to show you that he was a learner, you know.
Yeah, he's a learned man.
He was a grower, not a shower, you know.
Anyway, so moving right along here, season 5. That brings us to our best characters, Jon Snow and his small pecker.
Suggested, but still PG. There you go.
Anyway, so Jon Snow's the best character. He becomes Lord Commander after that battle of the, the Watchers on the Wall. And, he's really coming into his own as a character. You're actually starting to care about him. You didn't really care about him for the first few seasons.
There's a little bit of him that was whiny initially.
Yeah, he was whiny and entitled.
The bastard of Winterfell. He had a lot to be complaining about, but we didn't have to hear it all the time.
Well, you were distracted by Daenerys on the other side and Essos and what she was doing and growing more and more tyrannical as the seasons went on, but nobody was paying attention because she was freeing slaves, so it's okay, right?
Yeah, doing a lot of good, but it's kind of like rat poison. It's just a little bit of that poison with a lot of food. How else are you going to eat it otherwise? Daenerys was definitely showing us a lot of tyrant aspects and attributes.
But you can forgive her because she was killing some bad people.
She was killing some bad people, freeing the slaves. She had good intentions, but the road to hell was definitely paved with Daenerys.
So. Moving right along to the best death of Season 5, it's Marion Trant. He's the man who killed the dancing instructor from Bravos.
Dancer.
Yeah, and so obviously she finally got her first real kill. Arya was finally able to kill somebody that was on her list. It's like, thank God!
While in her training, become a faceless man
and
person.
She was very entertaining to watch her kill this man because he was beating little girls and stuff. And she's like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to stab you in the eyes.
For sure.
And I'm going to tell you who you aren't. And it was really exciting. And now, actually, we're going to the best episode, which is actually not episode 9.
Yeah.
It's episode 8.
They broke the trend. They moved it back one episode.
Yeah. Well, episode 9 is pretty good, too. It's when you get to see Drogon and a lot of his full-grownness. I think we got another season to see him fully grown.
Yeah.
But definitely a hard home for me, seeing the White Walkers and all their glory.
First big, ridiculous battle.
I mean, it is ridiculous. And you have the giant in there, like, beating him with the stick. It's just like, rah, rah. And
first time we get a hint of what Valyrian steel can do.
Yeah, and the dragon glass, where you kind of knew that could kill him. They didn't really get to use that. But you get to see the power of the Night King and how you just go, hey, what's up? Everybody's on my side now.
Just when you thought they were all dead, you thought you might have had a chance. Oh, guess what? Boop!
Yeah. So that was pretty awesome, visually enjoyable. And then the biggest shock was actually Jon being betrayed by his brothers of the Night's Watch for his nice watch.
For his nice watch.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, they were thanking him for his nice watch.
For the nice watch. So yeah, that was hard to watch.
Can't hear that ever again now without thinking nice watch.
Yeah.
Thanks for the nice watch.
But when you're watching it for the first time, you're just going,
I just got stabbed in the heart. And how could you?
And then you kind of rewatch the seasons again, and you realize that we can reverse back to Beric and how he was brought back to life, and you're thinking, the Red Woman's nearby.
Yeah.
I wonder,
can these prophets bring people back? All of them bring back people? Let's find out.
Interesting stuff. So, moving on to Season 6.
Season 6, yes. Which, of course, brings us to a very great character as well. Probably somewhere in the third, fourth realm, maybe. I don't know. So many good characters, you can't really put a good number to it. But still up there with all of the other ones. The Onion Knight, Sir Davos.
Yeah.
He was definitely the glue that kind of held everybody together. He brought in the armies. He brought together a lot of the sellswords, a lot of the other smaller houses. Got them all under Stannis Baratheon's, I wouldn't want to say rule, but all moving towards his cause and thinking that, hey, this is going to actually happen. You got Sir Davos here, you got the Red Woman, you got Stannis. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, he brought back Jon, basically. Yeah. After Stannis died in his horrible way, he came in and he kind of believed in Jon right off the bat because he was there to hey, what about you, Red Woman? Can you bring him back?
Yeah. He's always ever the thinker, definitely the problem solver. Let's just look at this from a different perspective.
He was like the middle-class man's man, We all appreciated him from day one because he wasn't really happy about the whole Stannis
flea-bottom born all the way up to the hand of the king. So definitely one of my favorites. But that brings us, of course, to the best death of the season, and yet another satisfying one. Ooh. Somebody who couldn't deserve it more, Ramsay Bolton.
Oh, yeah.
Ramsay Snow initially, then eventually Bolton. But definitely somebody who was pure evil, loved to torment, loved to torture people, loved to just poke and prod, and obviously somebody who was very self-absorbed and very pleased with himself on a regular basis. So to see him get not only by Sansa getting to be the last word on it and getting to be the person who actually dole out the justice, but to watch him be torn apart by his own hounds was definitely a satisfying moment, and justice was served.
I did enjoy him getting his face bashed in a little bit by Jon before that.
Yeah, Jon had to get a few licks in here and there. That was
he just killed Rickon, with an arrow, and then you just killed the
last giant.
Yeah, last giant with an arrow. I mean, there's nothing to like about this man.
Nope.
So there's other
no redeeming factors and qualities whatsoever. Yep. So it's good to see him off in such a fitting way.
Honorable mention though, Walder Frey died.
Yeah.
It just was kind of, it's all a lot of poetic justice. That's what I really appreciate about the show, is the poetic
Very
justice
poetic.
and, finishing storylines. You know, but a lot of that kind of stuff makes sense. It's not like we're just going to waste some time, bull crap you around here and there. No, make it right to the point.
Yeah, right to the point, which brings us around to the best episode. Yet again, another episode 9, kind of going back to the same theme there. I'm not sure exactly. But
this is the last season that we have 10 episodes in it.
The last one, yeah, but so fitting, too, to be the Battle of Bastards.
Oh,
to see both Jon Snow and Ramsay Bolton go against each other, and definitely a battle that did, for a second, make me wonder, like, what the heck's going on here? Obviously, Jon was just brought back and everything, but are we going to kill him off right away? I mean, after he went running out to try and save Rickon, and then was stuck in the middle of the battlefield suddenly without a sword and everything, you thought, well, that's it, he's done. But perfect timing, everybody comes rushing into his aid around him, and then proceeds to just lay waste to a lot of the flayed, or what would be the Bannermen.
Boltons.
The Boltons, I guess, the
Bolton
Bannermen or whatever.
You had the Card Starks.
Hal Starks, yes, the treacherous ones. So definitely good to see a lot of those people laid to waste. You didn't think, kind of thought again as they were being surrounded and being all poked with the sticks, surrounded by all the shields and everything, that was just yet again another situation where you thought, okay, it's all over from here.
Nope.
And then, come riding in, which was Sansa to help out with bringing in Littlefinger and the Eyrie. And the Eyrie, that was definitely a bit of a shocker there, but it was a good moment for that to kind of come to fruition and see that whole battle.
The biggest shock
come there,
but a little different than this.
Yeah, the big shock, of course, was a little bit different, I think, for a lot of us who were particularly happy with Melisandre's looks, maybe.
They enjoyed her a couple
times. The fact that she disrobed quite a few times, everything was all looking pretty good, till we realized that she was not what she seemed. After she pulled her necklace off, you got to see the real Red Woman. And oh my goodness, was that a shocker for all of us, because I think all secretly, if we didn't say it outright, was definitely a, hey, how's it going? Why?
The beauty is skin deep.
Yeah, apparently. Or magic deep, because blood magic, I tell you, that's some tricky stuff.
Butt magic.
Magic that had us all tricked, had us all convinced, unfortunately, and that was definitely the biggest shocker of that season.
It might have been the biggest shocker of the whole series. I don't know. He's got a couple of really good shockers. So now we're moving on to season 7, the second to last. It's got 7 episodes instead of 10 episodes.
Yeah, starting to trim things down a little bit.
And we're kind of starting to get to the end of this whole series. So the best character for that was surprising in a lot of ways, because she's been through a lot of crap, but she didn't act like she was really learning anything from it. You're going, come on, get with it. And all of a sudden at the end,
still be that naive little bird.
Yeah, by the end of it, you're like, oh, she's totally awesome. All right, she's got it.
Paying attention.
She's very smart, So Sansa Stark, good on you, you Queen of the North. Yeah. Did a fine job in that
I think it was another one of those situations where she played her character too well up to that point, because she was supposed to be the naive little girl who was just supposed to be married off to the king, and it was all she's ever wanted.
Yeah, that was tough first season.
Yeah, very tough to try. And she had a lot of moments, too, especially in this season, that just kind of made you go, I want to like you.
But then there was just so many things that were going on. You're going, how is she letting Littlefinger get away with this crap? That leads me to say that the best death of this season was Peter Baelish. Littlefinger. Yeah. It was nice to see his...
Creepy finger.
I'm a bit confused. Are you now?
I thought I had this whole thing wrapped up.
But apparently not. The Valyrian steel blade that you gave to Bran, who he gave to Arya, just sliced your throat.
She gave it to your throat.
Yeah.
An intimate meeting.
Yeah, it was so wonderful. I was just like, ooh.
Satisfying.
Yeah, it's nice stuff. So, since we don't have 10 episodes, the best episode of this season was episode 6, and it was the Suicide Squad episode, I called it.
Yeah.
But basically you had your Magnificent Seven, your
get
characters.
all the coolest characters together, all the biggest badasses.
Go north, look for a White Walker, and then get stuck on an island of rock around ice. And then you're like, this is really bad.
Another situation where you thought, well, they're all doomed.
Yeah, they're all doomed. And then you have Daenerys come in with her dragons, and you're like, this is great. It was
save the day.
It was such a good episode.
So good.
So enjoyable. Until the biggest shock.
Yeah, very sadly.
Biggest shock of the
season.
season.
Go, why?
We lost Viserion, and he was shot with a dart of ice, basically. A long dart.
Yeah.
And
went
down.
To find out the Night King was actually javelin champion for, 1,000 years running.
Yeah, and he planned this, apparently, because he wanted to bring him back as his permanent rider so he can blast down that wall.
He said, no fair, you can't have 3 dragons, I want one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he got one.
Which is not a surprise at that point.
Yeah.
You know, he ripped down the wall with the dragon.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
That was, again, poetic, but still shocking to see him go down in such a way.
Moving on to the last season.
Harsh way to do that. So,
Woo!
yes, season 8, and of course the controversial season for a lot of people because, yes, it moved quickly.
Yeah.
It wrapped up a lot.
6
it had a
episodes.
lot to just cruise right through in 6 episodes. So, in a sense, I get it. And in the other sense, I kind of wish that we would have gotten more, you know,
but
because
really,
obviously you had so much great character development, a lot of backstory, a lot of future story and build-up that kind of went to this whole season that culminated everything and made a lot of sense in a lot of ways, but I can see why there was some frustration from a lot of fans about this one because for a lot of people that weren't paying attention or this wasn't their second or third watch through, there was a lot that they missed that they didn't realize was going to be wrapped up in this season, and it took a lot to really, there's a lot to wrap up. So
a lot of characters, a lot of people that had to die, a lot of people that had to, you know, places that had to be put, in place. And I'm not upset about it, honestly, especially rewatching it this last week. I'm just like, that was pretty good. I mean, ultimately...
You can see it in its entirety, it makes sense.
I don't
so much
wait.
stuff that kind of built up to what was going into that season that made you go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense at the culmination with that.
Well,
some ways not how people wanted it to be, but it made sense. At least it wasn't a complete deviation of what had been going on at that point. You had seen these characters develop to this point, and they finally came to fruition.
And it wasn't like everything was like, oh, that was exactly what was going to happen. Sure, in your mind. But then when you rewatch it, you're like, oh, that makes sense. That's
which makes perfect sense for our favorite character of the season, which would be Bran the Broken.
King Bran.
King Bran, yes.
First of his
long
name. Long may he reign those 6 kingdoms.
Protector of the 6 realms, yes, as opposed to the 7 now, because now at this point we actually have a free North. We actually have them to be able to work with themselves, and eventually Sansa taking over as Queen of the North.
So pretty cool.
Again, very fitting in a lot of ways. I think it had all the feminists behind her too, so it definitely it struck a lot of chords with a lot of people. So we appreciate him because he was broken the first season to come back around to be the king in the last season.
That's pretty excellent.
One of the most fitting choices for a lot of ways because not only do we have Bran the Broken who's in a wheelchair and disabled and very empathetic towards the lower person or the lower peasant's needs, you also had a dwarf who took over as the hand with Tyrion. So I think you kind of had the best power couple to rule at that point, and they both didn't want it, so obviously they're going to be good rulers because of that. They were definitely men of the people, for sure.
Yeah, and then he burned down the Iron Throne, and he's got his own throne because he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly. So who needs that Iron Throne? Because it was built on lies and tyranny anyway.
And he can see everything, and he knows everything, and yet he's selfless at the same time. I think it was a perfect choice, honestly.
So probably the most controversial topic of this whole video for a lot of people. I think that we agree with this and think that it makes perfect sense because, again, we've watched it multiple times. We've seen everything build up to that point. We know where this is all going, but the best death of this season, because of all of this, because you saw little tidbits here and there, you saw her tyrannical side coming out that without her advisors would have been there a long time ago, and after she finally decided to just ignore everybody else and do her own thing, and she was going to be on the Iron Throne at the end, the best death culminating in a lot of ways was definitely Daenerys.
Yeah, the Targaryen crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Unfortunately, it didn't skip a generation. You had to be raised by someone completely different to kind of pass that up. We're talking about you, John.
They tried numerous times to get her not to burn the whole place down, and she said, you know what?
Why was that the first thing she went to, man? It was just like, what, the drop of a hat. I mean, sure, she had some stress. She had some reasons for it, whatever.
People died,
why do you got to go right there if you're trying to break the wheel here? You're trying to, you won. You'd already gotten that point. Yeah. Why'd you have to go and murder a bunch of innocents? Why'd you have to suddenly decide that you're so pissed off that having them surrender to you wasn't good enough that you had to just burn the whole town
Ruled by fear because nobody loved her anymore.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because, in a lot of ways, without even knowing it, without doing it on purpose, John was just being himself and it was rubbing it in her nose in it and she didn't like it anymore.
No, John is, Aegon Targaryen. He was the rightful king. He didn't want it either. But he does the right thing just like his dad.
The reluctant ruler that would have been the best choice for us at that point, but of course it didn't end up that way. And to a certain extent we're all disappointed with that, but again, still makes sense because Bran the Broken was still a better option.
Yeah,
better
ultimately
choice.
This whole show is about family and somewhat pride, but mostly, not pride, but your honor. There's a lot of honor, people are trying to restore their honor and being honorable, and what that means to them and their family. And that's what it breaks down to. And I think that makes the show really awesome for anybody to watch.
Yeah. So bringing it back around to a more positive note about this season, the best episode being episode 3, The Long Night.
Finally get to kill that Night King son of a
Finally
gun.
get to dole out some justice back to them White Walkers. And a really cool strategic battle that culminated very well in a lot of ways. And obviously it would have worked out well under normal circumstances, but we just got to see the power and numbers of the White Walkers to the point that you just knew that they were eventually going to run them over. And even when it was getting down to that point where they were just down to the last few and really finishing them off, Night King steps in yet again to just be like, yeah whatever, guys, here you go.
You thought it was
They're
over.
all back again, plus everybody else that's died in this battle. So at that point, you thought it was just donezo. So that was culminating to a lot of ways to just be a very fantastic battle. Again, doom and gloom. It brought a lot of tension up that you thought, I don't know, where is this going to go from here? You know,
Battle of the Dragons in the Sky.
Oh man, so many good scenes with all great characters.
Yes, it's hard to watch because it's dark. It's probably supposed to be around like 3 in the morning. You know, and it's got this.
We're giving it a lot of wiggle room in that sense
fire.
because it was very difficult. I mean, you probably had to change the settings on your TV. You had to watch it at night. You had to turn off all the other lights in the house so you could really get to see it better. But in a way that almost engrossed you in it more. That made you really pay attention to all the details going on there. Not to mention the cool matchups of random characters sitting there fighting next to each other.
Exactly.
You know, kind of down to 2x2s all around there until the last few people standing.
And then having Arya come out of nowhere, RKO on Night King, you know, with a whoop, sleight of hand, twist of fate, and that was pretty excellent.
Excellent indeed, which of course brings us to our most shocking moment for sure.
Which is interesting because I remember thinking when I started watching this one, I was like, whoa, you know, that's pretty shocking, but you know, it makes sense ultimately. It's not that shocking to probably some people now because they're like, wait, that happened?
But still, everything was all good, nice, happy moment. Rhaegal's death. Suddenly just stabbed the chest, through the neck, dove into the water, and saw him crash beneath the waves, and that was it. We were down to only one dragon.
One dragon at that point.
One dragon.
It was pretty upsetting because you're like, oh, well, Jon doesn't get to ride a dragon.
Again.
Yeah, I guess we should have known the writing was on the wall for him not to be king.
You got to ride a dragon in one epic battle,
but
not the second time.
But still, it was really enjoyable to watch him ride.
Which I guess in some ways makes sense because had he been on another dragon during that whole situation, he may have done something to actually stop Daenerys by taking out King's Landing. So, you know, what could have been, we don't know for sure, but I guess it had to be written in that way because otherwise she was left up there to just be the flying dragon tyrant that she was that whole episode.
And so many poetic deaths going on in that season. It was really hard to pick, like, I mean, it was hard for us to pick some of these deaths, honestly. I liked the Clegane Bowl. It was enjoyable. Definitely, like, culminated, like, okay, that's really what I wanted to see. Excellent.
We could have a whole video of honorable mentions of great characters that would have taken the spot, and it did make it difficult for a lot of the seasons to pick the best one. But in our opinion, we feel like we really took a lot of this into consideration, and we came up with the best list possible from what we saw. But either way, this is a good summary, we think, of all 8 seasons. There's a lot of ground to cover, so we hope that we hit every point that you were expecting and hoping for. Maybe brought up a few things that you didn't. So
otherwise, you got comments. You can always ask us questions or say stuff about your ideas.
You can always be interactive with us as we'll be interactive with you. So if you have questions about our opinions and what we came up with and why we decided this and all that, please go ahead and drop them on down there. But hopefully this gave you some food for thought. You look back into Game of Thrones again. Maybe you want to watch it over again. If you were so upset about Season 8, try it one more time. Especially if you watch it from beginning to end again. I think it'll make a heck of a lot more sense for you, and you want to wait a year in between each episode.
Or 2 years.
So, or 2 years, exactly.
Rough.
Yeah, so you got it in its entirety now. This is our thought of it for what it's worth for you guys. So if you like the idea of that, we'll go ahead and roll the end title screen there that tells you exactly what to do. And we will save this all and let you mill on that for a little while. And until next time, we'll see you again.
Later.
Stinks.
Stank?
Stank.
Stank. Hey, Bo.
Thanks for dropping by.
Stank. Hey, Bo.
Glad you came here to stink. All right, then.
All right, try that again. I guess it don't really matter.
Thank you for stopping by. We're glad
Look
you were here.
Look at my giant forearm, man. I'm Kendrick.
Dennis, it's a perfect circle.